This episode is brought to you by La Quinta by Wyndham. Wherever your work takes you, you know it's going to be a good time because you're staying at La Quinta by Wyndham. They have free breakfast, fully equipped gyms, and free high-speed Wi-Fi to help you take care of any last-minute business or help keep you in the know on all things sports. Tonight, La Quinta. Tomorrow, you triumph. Book your stay today at lq.com.
Welcome back to Tennis Unfiltered, live from Paris with me, James Gray of inews.co.uk and the iNewspaper. Just me this morning. We're going to have a quick look back at yesterday's women's final. I will mention the men's final, but probably by the time you listen to this, it will either be ongoing or already finished, because, well, between you and me, I don't think it's going to last very long, but that is another story. Yesterday, Iga Swiatek won her fourth Grand Slam title. She is almost exactly the same age as Rafael Nadal was when he won his fourth slam. Of course, four of his were all at Roland Garros. Iga Swiatek, three of hers were here at the French Open. She moves to fourth on the all-time list of women's French Open champions. Only Chris Evert, Steffi Graf and Justine Henin have won more titles than Swiatek. She was also the first woman for 16 years to successfully defend the title, and she moves level with three greats of the game: Margaret Court, Arantxa, Sánchez, Vicario, and of course Serena Williams, by having won three French Open titles. She said it wasn't an easy match. It was a pretty intense last few weeks. I'm just really happy. I never really focus on the records. I just do my best every day. It was... I said this to someone yesterday, and the more I think about it, the more I think it sort of sums things up. Was it a good match? Probably not. Was it an exciting match? It absolutely was. It swung one way and then the other, and then in the third set it swung about 5 different directions. And I think while, yes, the tennis level wasn't outstanding, there were some really bright moments in terms of tennis level and lots of really bright moments in terms of excitement. It was 2 hours and 46 minutes in pretty sweltering conditions. I would suggest that might end up being longer than the men's final, and I'm not sure when the last time that happened was. If I was going to try and sum it up sort of in a sentence, but I'm not sure that I can. It was a match of maybe 3 halves, to coin a phrase. Iga Swiatek flew out the blocks, and Karolina Muchova, I think, was pretty obviously pretty nervous and kind of stuck to the baseline. The thing that's kind of made this French Open run by Muchova so impressive and interesting and exciting has been her game style and her willingness to come forward. She's obviously got a big serve when she lands it. She can also strike from the baseline quite effectively. But I think the thing that marks her out from the rest is her, willingness to come forward, her use of the drop shot, her really good volleying technique. And yeah, she barely did that in the first set, frankly. She just seemed frozen by the occasion, which is kind of understandable. Obviously, I had completely forgotten until the other day. I actually shared a taxi with Karolina Muchova in Shrewsbury last year, which some people may remember. I popped off to Shrewsbury where there is a 100-level challenger. I called it the biggest little tennis tournament in Britain. In the town of Shrewsbury, they call it our Wimbledon. And Karolina Muchova was there grinding, frankly. She was trying to work her way back up from... Well, she was as low as 235 in the world at last year's US Open, and Shrewsbury wasn't long after that. So she was, I think, had made it into the top 170 perhaps, but was still, scrapping. That's right, yeah, she was 158 in the world at that tournament, and she lost in the second round to Barbora Palakova, who is also Czech and who is currently ranked 213 here. She lost in the second round of qualifying for the French Open. So, she very much was still trying to find her way back from injury. And as I say, I had forgotten that I shared a taxi with her because there were 3 of us in this tournament car back into town. And it was me, Karolina Muchova, and Monica Niculescu, who people may remember as the woman with no topspin forehand. She hits a slice forehand pretty much all the time. She mostly plays, I think, exclusively plays doubles now. And she is a good talker. And we talked loads about Billie Jean King Cup was coming up, and she was heading back to play in a big stadium in Romania, I think against Hungary, as I recall. And yeah, like she just talked a lot. And Muchova, I think, probably was quite glad of it because she just lost and was pretty keen to get out of there, I think. And I don't recall her saying a single word other than thank you to the taxi driver. But yeah, it was just one of those funny things that I didn't remember until literally yesterday. But yeah, she seemed perfectly nice from the silence that I got from her. But anyway, it gives you an idea of, the journey she's been on. So to then find herself in a Grand Slam final for the first time, yeah, pretty intimidating. And playing Swiatek on Chatrier is about as intimidating as it gets, really, because she's lost 2 matches all time at the French Open. She has obviously now won 14 in a row. She hadn't even dropped a set in her last 10 at Roland Garros. Like the list of stats is pretty staggering. So when Muchova found herself 6-2, 3-love down, it wasn't a massive surprise. And we were all going, less than an hour gone, match virtually over, complete blowout. And it felt like it was going to be a real shame, and we'd sort of go, oh Christ, that was rubbish. Who's ever going to get near Swiatek? It's not exciting for fans, and this, that, and the other. But then Muchova rallied, and she started hitting winners. She started getting up at the net. At one point, Chris Evert on commentary compared her to Roger Federer because she had played this really lovely sort of prancing backhand volley, pretty much in midair as she hit it, side on because she was still on the way forward, and it was really graceful. And actually, she placed it brilliantly. Like Swiatek was in the backhand corner and recovering, and the obvious thing for Muchova to do was to put it into the forehand corner and make her run and maybe have to play another ball. But actually, she went behind Swiatek, but she wasn't really over pursuing. So the angle for her to do it from the middle of the court was really, really narrow, and she just sort of pretty much clipped the service line. It was so beautifully placed in a high pressure moment in a final, and when not playing that well, I think that probably did help her grow into the match. And yeah, she got her first break at 3-1 and hit a really, really good forehand down the line to seal that break. And just a reminder of how many different shots she has in her arsenal. And I did say that she doesn't have a weapon, obviously. And I think she doesn't, but she can kind of do everything a bit. And she kind of reminds me of Ash Barty in that way a little bit. Good hand skills. And obviously Barty's first slam was here at Roland Garros. So I always say I think the women's game surface matters a bit less. The tennis changes a bit less at Roland Garros from other surfaces for whatever reason. And I think Muchova is a reminder of that. I think she's going to be great on the grass if she's still fit. She said yesterday she was pretty exhausted. You could hear it in her voice that she was knackered as well. And, she's obviously made a quarterfinal at Wimbledon before, not that long ago either. And, yeah, she can play on the grass. So, exciting to see what she can do at Wimbledon. She played brilliantly for pretty much the rest of that third set to rally from 3-1 to take it 7-5. She did fail to serve out the set at one point, which obviously wasn't ideal. But she'd got another chance at 6-5, and after one of the best points in that game of the match, with Muchova coming up to the net and playing a lovely angle volley, Swiatek chasing it down, and then Muchova on the stretch with her back to the court, just sticking a racket on it, which she actually dropped just after she hit the ball. But fortunately, Swiatek wasn't able to chase it down, and that brought up set point. And, well, It was a 14-minute game, but she held. And we went to a decider. And it was only the third time Swiatek has ever played a deciding set at Roland Garros, which is another ridiculous stat. She was the first player since Zheng Xinwen in the fourth round last year to even take a set off her. And I know Calvin hates it when people say to him, well, a lot of games went to deuce. And in the same sort of way, well, she won a set. You either win or you lose. But I think that is significant from Muchova. It shows she had fight. It also shows that Swiatek is human, and she did look human. Her unforced error count was uncharacteristically high. The first set it wasn't, but overall she hit 27 unforced errors to 19 winners, which, as much as anything else, I think is a reflection that the quality of the match was not super high, and that Swiatek did look pretty nervous. And, she was shouting at her box, which isn't super usual, and I think the occasion was getting to her a little bit, and Muchova, when she gets into her game, upsets your rhythm. She couldn't just sit on the baseline and trade until her opponent made a mistake. So it was a stressful situation for Swiatek, but I'm trying to remember how many breaks of serve. I think there were 5 breaks of serve in the last set. Pressure all around. I think at one point, both players were below 50% on points won on serve. But the crucial hold came when, at 4-all, Swiatek had just broken back, and she held for 5-4 and got ahead. And all of a sudden, I apologise for the hooting. This is Paris, after all. And, okay, I think they stopped. But she got to 5-4, and all of a sudden, Muchova is serving to... She's serving to stay in the match, the championship, having been 4-3 up. And, I asked her, I said, when you were 4-3 up, did you ever think, I've just got to hold twice here and I can win the French Open? And she said, I was aware of it, but I really just wanted to focus on first serve and try and, pick up some cheap points. And, that... the thing is, in the last game where Swiatek broke her, she did actually make 3 out of 4 first serves, but it wasn't enough. Whereas actually the 4-3 game, which is the specific moment I was asking about, she only made 2 first serves out of 8, and that's not going to end well, quite frankly. One of them was an ace, and the other one actually, Swiatek hit a winner eventually. So, I think she said she wasn't thinking about it, but I'm sure it must have been in her head. It looked like it was in her head. And then when we got to, serving at 4-5, and she was 4-5 and then love 30 down, not for the first time in the set either. I think she'd gone love 30 down maybe 4 times on her serve in that set, with varying results, but 15-40 and she double faults, and it's a sad way to end it. But I think probably Swiatek on balance did deserve it, and she dropped her haunches. She was very emotional. It's obviously been a really stressful and emotional fortnight for her. She said in Australia that she'd wasted a lot of mental energy the week before the Grand Slam. And I'm still not really sure what that meant, and I'm sure there's things going on that we're not privy to. That's my kind of guess. But the way she celebrated and the emotion that she had at the end suggests to me that she has really been bottling this all up and just trying to think as little as possible. Because Grand Slams are long. She will have been in Paris for 3 weeks, probably 2.5 weeks, nearly 3, and playing every day and practicing, and, there are no days off. Even if you don't practice, you're still thinking about the fact that you're quarter-final coming up, or semi-final coming up, or, God, I served badly in the second round, blah, blah, blah. It must be exhausting. So, I'm not surprised she was emotional, and a deserved winner. Chris Evert gave her the trophy, who has obviously won here 7 times. Amelie Mauresmo says someone asked her, actually it was my flatmate Eleanor, asked her, can she be the next Rafa? And she said, well, it'd be hard, but yeah, it's possible. Because she's so dominant on this surface. I do think Aryna Sabalenka would have given her a run for her money, but a bit like Muchova, Sabalenka crumbled under the pressure in the semi against Muchova. And if you can't cope with the pressure, then I'm afraid you don't deserve to win the title. And while I don't think Swiatek coped with it brilliantly, she coped with it slightly better than her opponent. And that's, your 6 out of 10 game is what wins you titles, not your 9 out of 10 game. How good are you when you're not very good? And I think for Swiatek, she was better than Muchova when she wasn't very good, and that's the key. Not a classic, I think again, I'll say it again, really exciting, but not like super high level of tennis. But I think for most people, that's okay. That's, excitement is all you want, really. And I think that's what we have to hope for from Djokovic Ruud. Hell, it might be a really high level final anyway, but the reality is that the most likely outcome is Djokovic wins in 3 sets and Casper Ruud gets nowhere near him because he's never won a set off him. He said quite honestly in his post-semi-final press conference, I've got to have a different game plan because it's never worked before. And he's right. But I think the interesting quote was actually from Alexander Zverev. Djokovic, here's the question. Djokovic is chasing the 23rd victory in a Grand Slam. It would be historic. Could there be any worse start for Casper in the final? I'm not sure I fully understand that question, but anyway. Zverev said, I think it couldn't be better. Novak's one of the best players in the world, but when you're on the brink of history, I think that adds a little bit of pressure. You remember the US Open final he had with Medvedev after beating me in the semis. The pressure, we're all human. Novak is human, we all feel it. So I think for him, for Casper, that's the best scenario, to be honest. I think he's right. And that US Open final, frankly, Djokovic bottled it. The pressure got to him. And he'd been really nervous throughout that tournament. And it all piled up on him. And this is a historic... he's going to move clear at the top of the men's all-time list. He's going to move to within 1 of Margaret Court. He's going to be 1 match closer to the calendar year Grand Slam. Which we did ask him about the other day, and he tried to sort of bat it off. But, it's in his head. Absolutely no doubt that he knows it's there. I think Ruud's only chance is Djokovic gets nervous. I think even a nervous Djokovic probably beats him anyway. But, I think there's... That probably is the only chance. I think it's going to rain in Paris today. I hope so, because it's so humid and needs to break. And so the roof will probably be shut, which will make it heavier and slower. With the humidity, it'll be heavy and slow anyway. That only really favours Djokovic more. Ruud would want it probably hot and bouncy and windy. But, yeah, I'm afraid I don't see much of a chance. Hopefully you're listening to this while watching Casper Ruud take a 2-set lead or something, and we'll have a final on our hands. But I think the reality is Djokovic is going to walk it, and he deserves it. He's probably been the best player in this tournament, maybe bar Alcaraz, but he beat Alcaraz, so absolutely deserves a title. But he's got to do the last bit of the job, so we'll see if he can. I'll be back on Monday, hopefully with Calvin and George. Please do come back then.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
An important message from Blue Ridge Hospice. There may be several hospices now claiming to serve the area, but Blue Ridge Hospice is the only local hospice that has been serving here for 40-plus years, operates the only hospice inpatient care center, conducts the only community-wide grief and bereavement programs, offers a nationally recognized music therapy program in conjunction with Shenandoah University, outscores every other Virginia hospice in Medicare's quality scores, and so much more. Blue Ridge Hospice, the first, the best. Find out more at blueridgehospice.org.